If you're trying to break into medical device or pharmaceutical sales, or maybe you're ready to reinvent yourself into a new specialty like oncology, our program, Medical Sales U, can help.
I just want to say that I'm extremely grateful for Dave Starrett and his program, Medical Sales U, which allowed me to transition from a clinical role into a rewarding career in sales.
He even taught me how to negotiate my sign-on bonus. I'm now making $60,000 more than I was as a pharmacist.
Our members come from every background: nurses, pharmacists, teachers, athletes, and they're breaking in fast, averaging $151,875 in 11 and a half weeks. Many are earning over $200K. The industry is changing lives. You can change lives. Check us out, Medical Sales U. Invest in yourself, and let's get you in the game. You've probably been asked the question, tell me about yourself. Now, it sounds simple, but in the interview, you will be asked this question, but it's one of the hardest questions to answer well. Now, I've coached people from all professions through Medical Sales U: nurses, pharmacists, teachers. I've helped a basketball coach recently. And it's amazing how many smart, talented people just blow this question. They either talk too long, or they list job titles, or they start from childhood. So today, I want to give you my framework, something that works with my students. It helps those in my program, whether you're interviewing with a medical sales role, a leadership role, or you're just trying to grow your career. It's called the PSPT: personal, successful, professional, and transferable. And by the end of this episode and the end of this podcast, you'll know not only how to answer this question, but you'll own it. You'll make it your own. And so in our program at Medical Sales U, we go into this into detail, okay? So let's just start here with the personal. Now, if you listen to many interview coaches, they'll tell you to skip this personal side and go straight to the professional background. And sure, that approach can work. But I believe that in today's culture, it's okay and even valuable to briefly share something personal that makes you unique. You don't have to tell about your entire family story, but you can show how you're human. The right personal details builds that connection. It makes you memorable. It makes you real. For example, when I answer this question, I'll often say something like, I'm Dave Starrett. I live in Columbus, Ohio. I'm happily married, father of 4, including a newborn. Over the last 6 years, I've worked in the field of precision medicine, pharmaceutical sales, diagnostics, and oncology. My grandfather passed away from lung cancer, and my wife's mom, a non-smoker, also lost her life due to lung cancer. Those experiences made this field personal for me. I'm driven by data, analytics, and precision medicine because they allow patients to receive chemo-free options that can save lives and give families more time. Now, notice what I did there. I shared something personal about me, and then I tied that to a professional mission, and naturally, it transitioned. Now, you'll be able to adapt this, you'll make it your own, but that's the balance you want. Be personal enough to show who you are, but purposeful enough to make it and show why it matters. So you make it personal, purposeful, and memorable. So one thing that you can do is that when you share something personal, tie that to how it leads to success and professional. Okay, so you could say, this is what I would do. I would say, I consider myself competitive by nature. I'm a former Division I athlete. Still wake up most mornings at 4:30 to hit CrossFit before the day begins. That early morning discipline gets me mentally and physically prepared. It carries into my work, whether it's pre-call planning, organizing my territory, or preparing to meet an oncologist. When I walk into a conversation with a physician, I'm ready because I've already done the work. I know the data driving their decisions. I know how to ask not just good questions, but great questions and really good follow-up questions. That's preparation. Now, maybe you don't come from athletics. Maybe you don't do CrossFit. That's not the point. The point is to share something in your story that makes you memorable It makes you human. Now, let's say, okay, if you're a nurse, you might want to say something like, I've been a nurse for 8 years. Caring for patients is part of my DNA. But last year, I rode 120 miles in the Peloton bike ride to raise money for cancer awareness. And that experience has opened my eyes of how innovation and awareness can truly change lives. Now, in Medical Sales U, we've helped pharmacists. So you can say something like, if you're a pharmacist, you could say, for years, I've helped physicians and patients navigate complex treatment plans. Now, what excites me now is helping more providers access the therapies that make those plans possible. Before I broke into medical sales, I was a teacher. Maybe you're a teacher too, and you're having this new interview. So you could say, I've spent the last decade helping students master new concepts and believe in themselves. I want to take that same communication and coaching skill set into a field where education saves lives, working with physicians and patients. Now, if you're coming from an IT or tech sales, you could say, I spent the past few years helping hospitals implement technology solutions. What drives me is connecting that same innovation to patient outcomes, which is why I'm moving towards medical sales. So no matter what your background is, the goal is the same. You be specific enough to sound human. You want to sound like a real person, right? And you want to be intentional enough to show purpose. When you combine those two, personally and preparation, you don't just answer the tell me about yourself. You give them a reason to remember you. Now, this is how we can, after you've said something personal, you move to successful. You'll want to write these down. You want to practice them. And this is where you give them confidence that you are a high performer. So don't just tell them I'm a high performer. You show them a story. Here's the truth. The best candidates come prepared with numbers and rankings. You can't wing this. Before every interview, I tell my members, write down 5 bullet points you're proud of. Now that might be rankings. I was in the top 10% of the sales force in 2024. Metrics. I grew the region by 35%. Be specific in that. What about projects? I led a team through a digital rollout. What about the impact? What about awards, President's Club, Employee of the Month? Now, if you're brand new to medical device, pharmaceutical sales, you got to be a little creative. If you're brand new, you use numbers. You could say, I led a 300 student program with measurable outcomes. If you're a nurse, you could say, I precepted new nurses. I led the rollout of a patient safety initiative. If you're a pharmacist, you could say, I helped double a clinic's adherence rate through better patient outcomes. If you're in IT sales, you could say, I exceeded quota for 3 years straight. I won national recognition. If you're a teacher, you could say, I created a new STEM program that increased student test scores by 22%. Now, you might have to be a little bit creative in this, but look back to your story of success and try to come up with those numbers. Guess as accurately as you can, but don't say about. If you're not sure if it's 20% or 25%, say 22%, okay? Be specific, stick, and practice your story. Say, I was a top performer. But don't just say I was a top performer. Say, I was ranked 3 out of 42 reps. Now, that's memorable. If you say I was a top performer, people will forget that. But say, I was ranked number 3 out of 42 reps. Now, you want to tie this a little bit broader to your professional, okay? So now that you've earned this credibility, you've moved from professional, where you explain your background a little bit and your path. This is where you can tell the story of growth. For example, I might say, my path into medical sales wasn't traditional. I started out in the nonprofit world. I even co-authored a Wall Street Journal best-selling book called I Am Second. Now, that experience taught me to communicate, to connect, to motivate people. I got to travel the world. I got to go to places like Africa on mission trips. And so that allowed me to later transition into sales. Transition into selling home sleep studies for a company called Novosom. And then some of that leadership went to another company called Virtuox. And that's where I learned how to manage accounts, develop relationships, closed business. And from there, I saw a lot of innovation in precision medicine and cancer. So I made a jump into oncology testing, and that transition doubled my income. It changed my purpose. Okay, so what I'm doing there is I'm trying to tell my story. That's professional storytelling. Now you got to make it your own. If you're newer, you might want to say, look, I've worked in fast-paced environments that's required quick learning, adaptability. And then you want to give something specific that shows that you do that, okay? And then you show how those skills translate perfectly into medical sales. You want to write this down. You might want to practice it. You might want to give it to AI, say, hey, help tweak this for me. Practice it for your spouse, for your friends, okay? Make it personal, purposeful, and memorable. And this is how we kind of make that transition. So start with who you are, give some numbers, some success stories, some awards, and then that professional side. Okay, going back to you nurses out there, what was it? I think we used the example. We said, if you're a nurse, you could say, I've been a nurse for 8 years and caring for patients is my DNA. But then you try to switch it to something like that makes you memorable. You might mention the bike ride you did or the cancer research. Same way if you're a pharmacist. Try to have some numbers, some statistics. But then what was it about that job that was passionate, that you were passionate about? And then try to make something about it that makes you transferable. So it's going to be a lot of creativity here because you're telling something about who you are, maybe just mentioning your family. Same with if you're a teacher, right? So you do want to say that, you don't want to talk anything negative about your former job. You don't want to say, hey, I hate being a teacher. I hate the kids. Say something positive, right? About how you were driven to help students, master those new concepts, right? And then, so you are talking about your career, but you're also showing that success. You're trying to be creative and look back at those numbers and sharing that story as well. Same with your IT sales, and then you tie it in. Then you make it transferable, okay, to patient outcomes. You're taking your success, who you are, okay? You're taking, first of all, you as a person, that human element, that personal, the P is the personal, right? And then from the personal part, we're talking about success, right? And then professional, okay? In this part, we're kind of tying it together. You're starting with your personality, your story, who you are. And it's better if you do this in person, but that's why it's so important for you just to practice in front of the camera. Video yourself. I tell our members, we do this, we practice, we critique each other in our program at Medical Sales U. Video yourself and send that short little 45-second video to a friend, okay? But we're tying this all together. And that brings us to this last part about transferable. This is where you connect your story to them. Every interview should end with a bridge. What excites me about this oncology opportunity is it aligns with what I've already been doing, building relationships, educating, helping patients get better outcomes. But this time, I'll be doing it with your products, your mission, your team. For oncology, you might want to say, look, my grandfather and my wife's mom both passed away from lung cancer. So this isn't just a job for me. It's a mission. I want to make sure that other families get more time than ours did. Now, see, that's powerful because is honest. It's not rehearsed. Now, we do rehearse it, right? So we do want to practice it, but the more you do it, you can tweak it. And the truth is simultaneously, the people in our program, they're interviewing with sometimes 4 companies at the same time. And they have to tweak their story a little bit, right? Not that they're lying. They want to tell the story correctly, but they're highlighting and they're making it transferable to the job and specifically the position that they are applying to. And that's what you need to do as well. So practice it, work on those steps, and let's talk about some of the things, what not to do. These are some of the most common mistakes that people make. Don't start with your childhood. Don't be negative. Nobody wants to know where you were born necessarily, or that you liked science in 3rd grade. Don't read your resume as well. Now, they already have your resume, but the goal is to make them to feel your story, not just to hear it. That's why we talk about the being personal at first. Don't speak in generalities. Avoid saying, I'm hardworking or I'm a team player. These are empty phrases. You want to prove them instead. You want to show them by a story of how you did it. For example, you might say, I consistently showed up 20 minutes early and I was promoted in 2 years. Now, don't talk too long. Keep it under 3 minutes in the interview. Again, keep it under 3 minutes. And you also have to read the room. You can unpack more of that later. Don't sound like a robot. Now, we will rehearse it in our program. We'll critique each other. But you want to practice it. Don't forget posture, presence, sit tall, smile, use people's names, make eye contact, okay? You want to ask them, what is their name? And use their name in the interview. Wear a suit, wear a blazer. In virtual calls, still dress up. You want to look sharp. Now, please don't end, that's about it. That kills the momentum. When you close, you can ask them a question as well. You want to close confidently. So let's recap this all. When someone asks, tell me about yourself, let's think about that. PSPT. The P, first one stands for personal. It's who you are. It's what drives you. The next is the S, successful. What you achieved, what is it that you've achieved in the past, and how you measure results. The next P is professional. This is your path, your key transitions. And then T, transferable. How does your story connect with their mission, their credo? Before every interview, write this down. Your 5 bullet points, personal, numbers, achievements, path, tied in. Practice saying it naturally. Because your story is your strategy. And if you get this question right, you're not just answering, you're differentiating yourself. So show up early, dress sharp, stay calm, smile. And remember, your story is what makes you stand out. I'm Dave Sterrett. And if this has helped you, share it with someone else. Press subscribe. And if you want to take this further, you want to get this one-on-one coaching and be part of our community, check us out at Medical Sales U. We can help you break into the industry. Until next time, go tell your story.